I thank the member for Ryan. The question is that the motion be agreed to, and I call the member for Hotham.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker, and I really want to express my gratitude to the member for Ford for giving me the opportunity to talk about Labor's really strong commitment to small business and the runs on the board that we have in trying to support small businesses to do what they do best. Deputy Speaker, I've got 5,000 innovative and entrepreneurial small businesses operating in my electorate of Hotham, and I hope that they agree that I've been a very forceful defender of their interests in my time in this House. I've got a bit of a business background myself, so I do have a little bit of knowledge of some of the issues they face, in particular in their dealings with government. But, Deputy Speaker, I'm particularly interested in what it is that this House can do to let small business do what they do best, because I know how central small businesses are going to be to Australia's economic future. Entrepreneurship and innovation have always mattered to us in Australia, but when we look at where our economy is heading, we can see that they're growing and growing in importance each year. We know that our economic future is going to be very much dependent on how we can transition into a knowledge-based economy in Australia. We know that as the global economy becomes more and more competitive, we're going to need to show the world that Australians can do things that no one else in the world can do to increase our prosperity. And we know that the small businesses in this country and the men and women that lead them will help our economy capture some of the incredible opportunities that lay ahead in the Asian century and the digital century that is part of Australia's future. Now, Deputy Speaker, we're all singing from the same songbook here because Labor has known about this for a long time, and of course when in government put in place some really important measures that were very popular, of course, in the small business community to help small businesses go about their business. And in fact, the achievements which this government crows about so endlessly are actually in large part the kind of reheated second helping of some of the important initiatives that Labor has put in place. And they've been resurrected, might I say, to much self-congratulations on the other side of the House. Central to all of this policy discussion, of course, is the instant asset tax write-off. What a good idea, Deputy Speaker, in a time where small businesses need a little bit of a lift to allow them to write off some of their assets. It was a great idea when we implemented it in government, but then those on the other side of the House abolished it when they came to power, Deputy Speaker. I really want that on the record. The instant asset tax write-off existed and they abolished it. Labor, when in government, proposed a tax cut for small business, but, Deputy Speaker, those on the other side of the House, they opposed the tax cut to small business. Now, you can understand a little bit of frustration from those of us on this side of the House, because what we do see is a bit of the grubby politics coming into this in an area where there's absolutely no need for any partisanship. We're all in furious agreement. Small businesses are incredibly important. They're an important driver of growth now. They'll matter more in the future, and we should be doing what we can to support them. And it's in that sort of good faith principle that Labor has tried to create policy and done so, I think, very successfully. Now, we've had those on the other side trying desperately in whatever way they can to infer that there's some reticence on this side of the House to get these reforms into legislation, into law, so that small businesses can start to benefit from them, which culminated, Deputy Speaker, in the somewhat interesting display of the government voting down its own legislation. And I have to say it's just an expression of how enthusiastic Labor is about some of these initiatives that we wanted to get this into the Senate as quickly as we can, so we can just help those small businessmen and women to benefit from these policies. Now, the truth is that when we look at the policy positions of both parties, we see a couple of good ideas that Labor came up with in government that have been adopted by those on the other side of the House. But that's not where it ends, Deputy Speaker, because what we saw in the budget reply speech given by the Leader of the Opposition a couple of months ago was a great new threshold of policy for small business. What Labor is starting to talk about now is a 5% tax cut for small businesses. We had the Prime Minister, of course, dismiss the idea out of hand immediately, but based on past form, I have little doubt that he and the very effervescent Minister for Small Business will be coming back and putting that forward as their own idea in due course. Deputy Speaker, I'd just close by saying that it's well and good to talk about specific policies relating to small business, but what small businesses need most is a thriving Australian economy full of confident consumers. And I would just say to the government that in their 2 years or so in office, they have done just about everything they can to knock the confidence of the economy and the confidence of consumers in this country on the head. And I'd ask them to turn their attentions to this important question that is really on the minds of small business in my community of Hotham.